around 12 o'clock that night. My water broke. I stayed home and, had some labor pains while I was home because I was supposed to deliver. At that time, I thought I was going to have a natural childbirth. And also, by that time, I had been on bed rest for a month because was diagnosed with preeclampsia, and I went into what was considered eclampsia. Now, for those of you that don't know what that is, eclampsia is a very serious problem or that happens to pregnant women. And what happens is when a woman who has a very high blood pressure during pregnancy can start having seizures. It didn't go as I planned it to go, but I had to learn at that moment, I had to trust God when it was out of my control. When things were out of my control and life was lifing and things were happening while I was trying to be a good mom, I just had to work with the things that I had to work with what I was given. Have you ever felt stretched between being a good mom and being a whole woman and having to wonder how to do this whole thing of becoming a mom in every stage of your life? Stay with me, because by the end of this conversation, you will know exactly what to do next. Hey, my Mama Faye Motivate family. I am Mama Faye, and I am on a mission to elevate women who are becoming, women who are growing into themselves in real time, women who are holding families, careers, and relationships together. I bring lived experience as a wife, a mom, a nurse, a leader, a manager, yes, a coach, and a woman who has walked in many seasons in my life. This particular podcast is for the woman who knows she is becoming and is ready to understand what that means. Now, this week, we're going to be talking about motherhood never ends and becoming a mom for life. Yes, this is a life term. Just like the Supreme Court, you have been appointed for life. Not just giving birth, not just raising babies, but because becoming a mom is an identity and understanding that motherhood does not end when your children turn 18. It really shifts, it evolves, and it really stretches you. And it invites you to actually grow and keep growing again and again. So let me start first by having an emotional check-in with you today. How are you really doing? Are you tired? If you have a mom, you probably are. Are you all touched out? Are you mentally carrying everyone's schedule in your head? Are you proud but overwhelmed? Are you surviving but not fully present? That means that you are probably a mom. Now, I need you to come on in. I want you, if you can, to take that seat. Take a deep breath right now, because guess what? You're not failing, but you're carrying a whole lot. Motherhood can be beautiful. You see those beautiful eyes and that little smile when you get that first smile from that baby and you look at them little cute little pink little feet. Oh my goodness, it just warms your heart. But it can also be emotional labor. It can be a mental load that you carry like an undercover cop. It's remembering birthdays, doctor's appointments, the school forms you got to fill out, the groceries that is mighty high today, you have to keep replenishing. And you got to consider everybody's feelings and all of their little conflicts you have to resolve all throughout throughout the day while trying to remember and considers everybody's future plans and everybody's schedule. It's really holding the temperature thermostat for your home. And sometimes in all of that, you end up disappearing and becoming and begin to live on autopilot. Now, here's my story. Mine started actually on today. It'll be over a certain amount of years. I'm not going to tell that person's age, but it actually started today, on the day of this recording. I was 20 years old, and when I became a mom. And I'll start at the point of when I went to the hospital. I went into labor around 12 o'clock that night. My water broke. I stayed home and, had some labor pains while I was home because I was supposed to deliver. At that time, I thought I was going to have a natural childbirth. And also, by that time, I had been on bed rest for a month because I was diagnosed with preeclampsia, and I went into what was considered eclampsia. Now, for those of you that don't know what that is, eclampsia is a very serious problem that happens to pregnant women. And what happens is when a woman who has a very high blood pressure during pregnancy can start having seizures. Thankful God, I did not ever have a seizure that I know of, but I did not have one. But eclampsia can be dangerous for both the mom and the baby. That is why doctors watch your blood pressure very carefully during pregnancy. Because if a pregnant woman has, and these are the signs, bad headaches, blurred vision, swelling of your ankles and your hands, and sometimes swelling all over, or you feel very sick, you must call your doctor right away because the doctor can treat it, but it is considered an emergency and it needs care fast. So here I am. I am headed to the hospital, and I get there, and they immediately take my blood pressure, and my blood pressure is out of control. It is higher than higher. So they told my husband he had to leave. They put me in bed. They put me in a dark room, and they came in with IVs and monitors, and this is how my story began. That evening, I had an emergency C-section, and in those days, you didn't have an epidural. For those that know what that is, where you get you're awake during the surgery, so to speak. I had to have general anesthesia, where at that time, they used to use like a gas. So after I had the baby, 2 days later, for 2 days rather, I had to have this magnesium injections. These were vials, and I had to have one put in each buttocks every 4 hours. I had to turn over. She shot me in one, and then I turned over and she shot me in the other one. And the hard part about it was that I wasn't able to see my baby during that time. So for the first few days, I saw no one except the nurse and the doctor. So immediately I kept asking them, hey, can I see my baby? Is my baby okay? And they would sort of just dismiss me and say, no, you have to rest. You can't see the baby right now. And because in their head, they were thinking that, it could cause me to have seizures, being excited or being upset. But of course, being 20 years old, and this is having this type of surgery, having a baby, I began to get a little nervous in my mind, and I wondered if my baby was okay, because I thought, well, why would they not allow me to see my baby? So imagine me having those feelings and having to deal with that myself by myself. Because you have to remember, this is in an era where there's no cell phones. There's no phones. And if there was one, I wasn't allowed to get on the phone and talk to other people. So during those first 2 days, I was very much alone. So you can imagine how this is being my first introduction into motherhood. After the 2 days, of course, they brought me this beautiful baby, and life began ever since. So coming into motherhood is one thing that happens differently for everyone. And what that says to me, that being a mom, that every motherhood experience is going to be different. And guess what? It is also going to be different with each child. So I want to ask some questions today, some real questions that many moms may wonder about. And these are some of the ones that most moms want to know about. How do I balance motherhood without losing who I am? How do I manage emotional overload and invisible labor? How do I move from survival mode to being present? And how do I be an intentional mom, even well into my children's adulthood? Because I'm finding in this stage in my life that motherhood still continues, but it looks very different. And what I want to do today is I want to give you some practical steps that is simple, clear, and powerful. So are you ready? Now, how do we balance motherhood without losing who we are? First of all, you got to keep one thing that is only yours each week. Whether that's going to be a walk that you're going to take, sometimes there may be a class that you want to attend. It doesn't always have to be a class for educational purposes. It can be, a fun class. They don't really have them like they used to back in the day, but a lot of times you could take all different types of classes on how to do certain things that you would like to learn how to do. And it could be you, a person that like to write, so you can journal. Or you may want to have a quiet hour where you get to sit and relax and have just some me time to yourself. But whatever it is that you decide, you need to keep that one thing that is yours each week. And it may change throughout the years based on where you are and your stage in life or in this thing becoming a mom, but let it be. And then what you're going to do is write down and schedule that time so that thing is really like an appointment. Why do I say that? Because it's very easy for us moms to quickly take what we need off the list. And so it is very important that you learn to keep something for you on the list. All right? Now, how do I manage emotional overload and reduce my invisible labor? You're also going to write down everything you carry mentally each week. Because a lot of times when we have it going around in our head, and yes, while you're younger, you could probably remember it all. I'm at an age now where, that's not going to happen. But write that stuff down. Get it out of your head. Because when it's in your head, you're mulling over it over and over again. And what happens is that every time you rethink about all the things that you have to do and get done, it just makes you tired. And sometimes it can make you irritable, and it can make you not be present because now you're on a to-do list and you're trying to get it all done and you're trying to remember it all. So what I found, especially as a mom, because you got to, if I haven't told you in other previous, while I was mothering, I was also taking classes to going to back to school, and I also had a husband, and I also was running a youth department at my church. So for me, I needed to write things down so that I could take everything out of my head mentally, all of the things that I needed to get done. And that helped me to unload that off. So I wouldn't keep rehearsing it over and over, because that rehearsing actually makes you tired. And then what you can do is circle what you can share and delegate that to others. That's the reason why you're writing it down, because some things you're going to have to delegate to others. So you're not going to be able to be all, do all. That is not motherhood. That is control. And so you want to release some of that control to people, of course, people who are responsible. And you only want to delegate what people can handle, but you got to delegate some things to other people. You heard the whole that saying that says it takes a village to raise a child. Well, that actually is true. It is going to take help. You're going to need help on this particular journey of becoming. And then on that same list, you know how we sometimes put high expectations on ourselves? Some of those things that you have on that list can be delayed, and you don't have to get it done today. You can put that off for tomorrow. And I hate to say it, because I'm one that loves to do that too. Sometimes some things are going to have to be removed. You're going to have to remove some things from your schedule. And then have one clear conversation. Sometimes this may have to be more than one, though, with everyone about the support that you need. Use simple statements like "I need," because you have to make it personal, and to start. And then sometimes it has to be, and I say this gently, sometimes you have to tell others what that they need to do to help you, because sometimes asking is not going to work. Sometimes you have to tell someone that they are to help you to do the thing that you need. And when the responsibilities are visible, like the list, you can also share with them your list so that they can see that you do have a lot that you're doing. Because anything that you're doing, a lot of times it goes without, and when people are not seeing it, they just assume that you're okay with it and that it's not that much. But a lot of times when you can name what you have to do and the things that you have to do to get done, and those are the things that must be done, sometimes it costs a little bit more empathy, and sometimes it can help you to better negotiate shared responsibilities. And that doesn't always mean that it's going to come from someone in your home. Sometimes you have to share this responsibility with other people, and don't feel guilty if you have to have help. It is okay, because emotional overload can go down when we have shared responsibility. And that doesn't mean all the stress is going to go away, but what it does mean that it will become more manageable, because we all know that those of us who are mothers and those who have seen mothers would know that you carry a lot, and it is not meant for you to carry it all alone. So naming that load helps reduce the weight. Now, how do I move from survival mode to being present? And how do I be an intentional parent even well into my children's adulthood? Begin, we already said, by choosing one daily habit. That's 10 minutes of undistracted listening and engage in with your children. And so this is something that I have learned personally, that this is very important that you stay present, because a lot of times we're not when I talk about motherhood, a lot of times the mommy guilt comes in, and it always seems like you're not doing something, so therefore somebody has to come in and tell you how to do this. No, that's not the purpose of this today. The purpose of this today is to bring awareness to what you are already doing. And it's just to encourage you to keep going and to keep moving forward. Because if you don't get anything, you may make mistakes. You may, in all of your trying to be a mom, the one thing that works is staying present, staying engaged. And with you staying present and staying engaged, I believe every child can say that had moms and dad who really not only just did things with them, but they can truly say that they were really active and present and engaged with them, not just going through tasks, not taking them just from one place to the other, but they actually really had a relationship. They will value the relationship that they had with that parent. And how you can do those things is by first ask one meaningful question, whether it's going to be in the morning, at dinner, or before bed. And this is a trick that will actually work, because a lot of times we'll say, "Oh, did you have a good day today?" And I'm guilty of that with my grandchildren. But I find that if you use the start your conversation with "Tell me about your day," what does "Tell me about your day" or says when instead of saying "Did you have a good day?" Because when you use the word "Did you have a good day?" they can say, "Yes, it was okay, it was good." But when you say "Tell me about your day," that invites them to give you details. And then take time to think long term and ask yourself, who am I raising? Because the reason why I say this is because every child is different. And the way that you're going to parent that child is different. I used to hear people say, "Oh, I treat all of my children the same." Well, sometimes that may be a little bit of the problem, because they're so different and they respond differently to different ways of parenting. Each child you have to parent differently. That doesn't mean that you're not fair. That doesn't mean that you're impartial. It just looks different. And not don't just think about what am I fixing today, because a lot of times we can become fixers. And what I mean by that is you have those days when things are just going, and all you want the children to do is to just do everything that needs to be done so that you could just get through the day, because some days it's just like that. But there are times when you have to take out of your busy day and not just be fixers. Find little places in your day or in your week to be more intentional. And this is a great opportunity for me to tell you about an ebook that I have on intentional parenting. And the reason why I wrote this book is to give you some great tried and true methods and ideas of things that you want to be intentional about sharing with your children when you're raising them. And so, and some of it is things that I wish I knew, but many of the things is things that I did do and that I was very intentional about doing those things. Because once I knew what I wanted to instill in my children, I then made sure that I provided opportunities for those things to happen. And yes, I know you're really, really busy, but in all of this busyness, the reason why I am doing the whole Becoming Me podcast, because I'm telling you, this is what I learned, that if you're not intentional, that doesn't mean that every day you're going to wake up and you're going to get everything right. No, there's going to be some failures. Failures are a part of the whole process. So don't get discouraged because you had some failures and you had some days when it just wasn't going to happen, and things went left, and you did some things that maybe wasn't right. But what you and what I have had to learn is that when I find myself getting off and I'm really off the path, is that I have to now be intentional about getting back on the path. So motherhood is not about barking out orders. It's about being engaged. It's about being present when it really matters. And that's more than being perfection. And it helps us to connect and to really establish relationship. Because what happens is when we are present, we really build secure adults. And why are they secure? Because they're secure, number one, in knowing that you got their back. That's the one thing that I remember about my parents. My parents are now deceased. But the one thing that I remember about my parents, they always had my back. They weren't perfect, but I knew that they loved me and I knew that they always had my back. So you don't have to be everything. You just have to be intentional about communicating that you have their back. Now, it is not about doing it all. It is about growing alongside your children because, yes, you are growing too. You're not an expert at this. There's no experts. Let me tell you, they're not. What happens is most of us who have been on that side, and I can say on that side, I'm a parent of adult children now, but I've been through what most of you going through, and I understand that you're not going to be perfect, but you are still going to be becoming. And you're going to be becoming all the way through that whole process. And guess what? I am still becoming because I'm learning how to parent adult children. And yes, it is a thing. Now, for those of you who are serious about becoming a better version of yourself, even a better mom, where are you with your goals this week? Because yes, we're still goal setting. And I'm going to tell you what my goal is. My goal this week is working on my budgeting goals, increasing my revenue or income, and handling some home repairs. That, see, is real life. It's real responsibility because becoming does not stop because you are busy. It happens inside the busyness. And yes, last week I had the goal of going to the doctor, but guess what? I missed that appointment. And so I wanted to share that with you today because sometimes, yes, I want you to see that, yes, even though we're planning these goals, sometimes you are able to accomplish your goal, but there are going to be times where you miss it. But what I had to do was I had to reschedule that appointment, and I have a future appointment to be able to meet that goal. So I want to encourage you. What are you becoming? What is your becoming me goal? And are you that you're working on this week? Are you organizing your finances? Are you going to see that much needed repairs are done on the home? Are you repairing your peace? Are you rebuilding confidence? Or are you navigating to a different stage of motherhood? Because there are stages to this. And now you are walking through becoming maybe a mom to a school ager. I can remember when I got rid of that last baby bed. I can remember when I didn't have to do diapers anymore or Pampers, and I had to change because they were all now finally potty trained. So you go through staging, and it is also recognizing when you are changing stages because that is very key too. Because being a mom as to a baby is very different from being a mom to a toddler, and being a mom to a toddler looks very different from being a mom as a teenager. And if you don't identify where you are in those stages, sometimes you're not preparing yourself for the next stage and what that's going to look like, and getting more information because it's very key to get more information. Don't just do it off the top of your head or how your parents did it because each generation is very, very different. And I kind of bring about some of that in the newsletter that I do on a weekly that talks about whatever I'm talking about on the podcast. I also bring that up in the newsletter, becoming newsletter that I have on Substack. So in that newsletter, I'm talking a little bit more and expanding a little more about those stages and about how to recognize what stage you're in, and more importantly, how to kind of prepare for that stage. And that's just really to get you thinking about that and bring it to the forefront. Now, what I need you to do is I need you all to leave a comment, and I need you to let me know what are you becoming and what goals are you working on. So I want you to you can reach me at Motivate Moment by Mama Faye, HT on Substack.com to connect with me about your becoming goal. I really want to hear what season you are in. Leave a prayer for you today. And let me ask you this clearly. This is my prayer. Being a mom for life means you will transition out of each stage into next. You will go from hands-on parenting to coaching, for correcting to advising, and from managing schedules to be able to parent the children that God has given you, just like I said, require and to give you it's going to require you to let wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding, your wisdom, and you're going to need discernment, and you're going to need discretion as to how to still become the person that God has meant for you to be, while you're yet helping and nourishing and training and growing up the child that God wants them to be. So I'm going to leave that prayer with you, that God will do that for you in your life, just like he walked through me with me and walked through me too, to help me to navigate through every season in my parenting and in my being a mom. And I can say, because like I said, today is the birthday on the day that I'm taping this is the birthday of one of those children. And I can look back and I don't have any regrets. And I believe the reason why I don't have any regrets is because I did rely on that ability. And times when it got really, really tough, and I really, really wanted to throw in the towels, and I really, really wasn't sure if I was doing it right or if it was going to turn out right, I relied and I trust on the God that was living on the inside of me to do the work. And I had to trust the process that he was leading me and guiding me and showing me how to do this. And so I leave that with you today. If you're one of those people that you're sort of in that middle road, or you may be just a mom like I was 20 years ago, very scared, didn't know what was going to happen. Things didn't turn out the way I didn't plan to be have emergency surgery. I didn't plan to be laid up in on bed rest. It didn't go as I planned it to go, but I had to learn to, at that moment, I had to trust God when it was out of my control. When things were out of my control and life was lifing and things were happening while I was trying to be a good mom, I just had to work with the things that I had to work with what I was given, and I had to use what I knew. I didn't know everything that I probably could have, that I know now. And yes, there were things that I did then that I probably would have done differently had I know what I know today. But at the time, I did the best that I knew to do at the time. And so I want to leave that with you as a mom, as you are becoming in this process of being a mom. That's where the real jewel happens. It happens at the time when you are not knowing, but you are still being present, you're still staying engaged, and you still find a way to still get it done. And if you don't get it done, you find a way to still make it happen. And when I say make it happen, you help you and the child to get through it. All right. So we next week we're going to go deeper We're going to talk about becoming a servant, a caregiver, and becoming a daughter. And we're also going to dive into how do I grow spiritually while caring for and serving others? How do I honor family while still protecting my own well-being? And we know we got to do that. And how do I avoid burnout while staying faithful to my calling? And how do I rebuild myself after caregiving, after a loss, and a long seasons of responsibilities for taking care of other people? And if you have ever felt like everyone depends on you and you do not know who will hold you together, you're going to need to be here for that conversation. And if this episode really helped you today, I need you to continue to listen and to follow and subscribe. And I'd encourage you again, just leave me an emoji if you can't write any comment, or just put hashtag becoming in the comments. Now, to continue to listen to the Mama Faye Becoming Me podcast, you can listen on MOMAFEY-HT.podbean.com, and wherever you listen to, there are more than 8 different podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple, and also on Substack, Substack.com. You will find Motivate Moment by Mama Faye, and the MOMAFEY-HT Becoming Me podcast is one of the 3 podcasts, and you can subscribe there. And then what happens is when you leave your email, then you will not miss a single episode, because what happens is those episodes will come directly to your inbox. And I talked about this newsletter. You can subscribe to it for free. To that Becomers newsletter is located in the same place on Substack. And it is an extension of each episode for weekly motivation. And this week I'm writing about those stages of motherhood. And so if you want to find out more about that, find that newsletter. And then, of course, if you want to track your own progress with the Mama Faye Goal Setting Journal for Women, you can find that and all the information that you need and more on the MamaMeHometraining.com//Becoming Me 2026. That's the website I'm using for now. And like I said, for most of you, you can locate me on Substack, because on there, that's where you can comment and you can even chat with me if you so like. Now, I also, for those of you that want to know what I look like and you want to see other things that I'm doing, I need you to follow me at MOMAFEY-HT, and I'm on most social media platforms. And that way you can also stay connected to this movement for women and how this becoming on purpose is going, and other things that I'm doing as well. Now, this week, I want this reminder to stay with you, that God sees your sacrifice. It is only a season. And as you transition into a new stage of being a mom, remember that your quiet obedience, your late nights, your steady love, that none of it is wasted. And challenge yourself to stay with this process each week. Finish one goal. Try and treat yourself to one thing, and protect 1 hour a week, at least a week, for yourself. And by all means, stay with this and stay with it. Because getting to the next version of you is not going to be accidental. It is going to be intentional. All right.
I got something to say.